So on the subject of our access modifiers, it's only really through experience that you get to you get a feel for when you might want to use those different levels of access. And for example, you might wonder, well, why would you ever want to use a private member if you can only ever use it in that class? It almost seems almost no point. But we already showed in the animal class here, a very popular usage for private members is encapsulation. So you're saying that nothing outside the animal class is going to touch those two there, but I will restrict access to it through some public methods. So if you want to set the name, by all means you can do, but you have to call this public method and pass in the name you want. Now obviously all we're doing is setting the name to what they're passing in, so it's effectively the same. You might as well make that public. But of course, what you could put all sorts of logic in there. You could make sure no one's using an inappropriate name, or they're not putting wrong characters, and you could do your own logic there to protect that. And even if you don't, like most Java beans, so that's classes that have this format of private types and getter and setter methods, most of them actually don't have any logic in these methods. Most of them are just straight get and sets like that. But it's best practice anyway. It's just a good behavior to fall into. And if you plug your classes into any kind of frameworks like Spring or anything like that, it always expects there to be this pattern, this Java Beans pattern. It always expects to see getters and setters for doing things behind the scene. But you might think, well, why else might I want to have a private method? So if you think, for example, if we just do a dummy class here, just call it file provider, something like that. And so there's a class called file provider. Yeah, I will add that to Git, and just add a new method in it. So public file. So it's going to return a file. Get file by name, and then you ask whoever's calling it to. Keyboard's playing up a bit. Pass their name in, and the name of the file they want, like that. So there's this thing called public file, yeah, so it's going to just return a file. So they're coming in and they're saying, get me a file, get me a file. This is my username, this is the file. But you might not want to, and just to make that compile, by the way, there, because it's expecting a return type there, just to get it to compile while we're working on it, we can just do that, and that will satisfy it for now. We'll just keep it compiling. So there might be various things you want to do. First of all, you might want to verify the user. Then you check that the file's actually there. Check that you can download it. So what you could do is let's just do those as public methods. Public void check user access, like that. And then just do public void check file exists, like that, and then maybe finally retrieve file or something. Okay, file retrieve file, something like that. And again, just to get it, this is just going to be a skeleton class and not actually do anything, just to demonstrate the principle of it, just to show that. And so what you can do in this, so it's good practice in Java to split up logic into blocks, not do loads of things in one method. So this is good practice anyway. So what you might want to do here, you say, okay, well, you want this file. First of all, I have to check your user access, so I'll call that here. Then check that the file exists, so I'll do that there. And then return, is it retrieve file? Yeah. Then actually get the file and return it, like that. And that's all very well. So the user can log in and they call this public method, and that will farm out to these methods. But say, for example, that this user didn't have access. You'd put code in there to throw an exception, throw exception if user does not have access, and that would stop them getting it, because at that point you get an exception there. Same here, throw an exception if the file doesn't exist. Like that. So this would, this would stop them getting the. This would stop this method working, and that's fine. So the user comes in, and you've said, "Oh yes, user, this is the method you want to use to get this file." So they come in, but they get an exception. They get an exception because this one has thrown the exception that they haven't got access. So they get that message back again. So they're very sneaky, and they think, well, actually, this method's public as well. Let's just bypass all the security and just go straight for that. And there's nothing stopping them doing it. Nothing stopping them doing that at all. So what you'd do, of course, is you'd make these private. You make these private here, and it stops them. So what you're saying is these kind of sub-methods, if you like, they're my business. This is the way I get this file and check everything. You're welcome to call this one, but it's up to me how I then get the file, and I've chosen to make private members here. Quite secure. This is me. You're checking user access. I can't be quite secure, and if they tried to access that, as we've just seen, they would fall over in a heap. So that's why you might want to use private. That's just an example of why you might want to use private methods.